Welcome to the Old Mac Gang Podcast, or OMG. It's a podcast, it's a vodcast, with a panel of longtime, seasoned Mac Apple users who want to discuss the most relevant apps, services to age-seasoned users. I'm Marty Gensius, an Apple enthusiast and podcaster. I'm a 67-year-old age-seasoned user who has collected a great group of friends to talk about Apple and how seasoned citizens can use their Apple products. Now, today's topic we'll get to is about games for fun and exercise. Your brain exercise, primarily, is what we're talking about. And interesting, as we put the show notes together, people were contributing to different things that they do, so you get a diversity of stuff and ideas that you might want to try out just from the contributions that are there. But before we get into that, let's see who's with us in our group.
I'm Peter. I'm a 72-year-old age-seasoned Apple enthusiast from Bay Village, Ohio. I enjoy learning about computers and related gadgets and sharing what I've learned with others, in particular, this old Mac gang and our listeners. Chris.
Hey, I'm Chris. I'm a 78-year-old retiree in Tucson, Arizona, and a happy member of the Tucson Mac User Group. I've been around the Mac since 1984 and spent about 9 years with the Apple user groups in the Dallas and Austin areas. And then I worked for Apple for about 9 years and sort of proceeded from there. And today I'm retired. I'm using mostly current Apple stuff and really enjoying it.
Hi, I'm Bob, and I'm also in Tucson. I'm still in my 70s somewhere. Sometimes I'm not quite so sure. I am also an officer of the Tucson Macintosh User Group and happy to be here. Over to Gary.
I'm Gary. I'm 88 years old and a member of the Northeast Ohio Apple Users Group, and I'm grateful for Marty, who put this team together. Peter and I were part of the group, and Marty found Bob and Chris, and it's been a wonderful ride so far. Marty?
Okay, so I think it was Chris who pointed out that Apple, and for those of us who are concerned about health, and those of us who are aged users who are concerned about health, Apple has put together there's been some changes in their watch. And what we mean by changes is, for a long time, Apple had, because of a lawsuit, had to shut off the blood oxygen sensor. Now, blood oxygen sensors are pretty important in terms of a metric for folks to use, along with the other health things that the Apple Watch does, including heart rate, and we'll also do ECGs on some of the watches, and we'll inform you about AFib and fast heart rates and things like that. But blood oxygen tells you a little bit about the efficiency of what's going on with your heart and how efficiently you're carrying or maintaining oxygen within your blood. They put in a sensor that then was really effective, and you could read the information directly on your watch. And then a lawsuit was brought against them for putting the sensor in, and it was a copyright. I'm not even sure it was a copyright infringement. I think Apple wanted to do this, and they poached a bunch of engineers from Massimo who had helped create the sensor, and then Apple went ahead and created the sensor and put it within their watch. Massimo brought a lawsuit, and in such, it's been tied up. So for quite a while, Apple had to shut off the software allowing the blood oxygen sensor to work in, what was it, Chris? Was it 9, 10, and the Ultra?
I believe so.
Yeah. I have go ahead, Peter.
If you bought a Series 9 in the first few months that it was out, it works, and mine does.
Yeah. So there's this scenario where certain watches have the technology, but the blood sensor was turned, or the blood oxygen sensor was turned off. So this litigation has gone on for, I don't know, 18 months or so. And this last week, Apple was able to bypass the patent, or the issues that are complaints about patent, by not by allowing the sensor to work but not to show up on your watch. Instead, it sends the information directly to your health data, and you get a notification on your phone that this has been added to your health data. If you want to look at it, you can look at it. I have been running developer betas on my watch, and when it first came out about 6-7 days ago, with the developer beta, it would not show up on the developer beta. And I'm like, well, that's my risk for running developer betas. I can't get my blood oxygen sensor back. But then it was yesterday or the day before, they put out another upgrade, and that upgrade for the developers then allowed me to see the blood oxygen sensor on my watch using a developer beta. And frankly, I thought, how is this going to work? Is it going to be clumsy? Has anybody tried this since it's come back on, or no? Okay, I thought it would be clumsy. It really is pretty seamless. You do your blood oxygen like you've always done by hitting the button and sitting for 15 seconds, and then it sends it to your phone, to your health app, and it pops up right away, and it says, would you like to, you can find this on the health app. You open it up on your phone, and there it is. So it's not too disruptive, but Apple was about to get around a way to get around the issues that they have with it. Chris, do you have anything to add on this?
Well, I'm running the Series 6, and as is Bob, I think, and it's been working all along, but I've just noticed with the recent update, it is now under respiratory or respiration. And, I never knew where it was anyway. I would always search for it. I would just type blood in the search field, and then it would list out, and then I'd click on it. So I don't know, it didn't much matter to me, but it's something I obviously scan, particularly nighttime in terms of sleep, make sure that that number is north of 90, which it needs to be.
Yeah, and Peter.
Yeah, I was just going to say that for people like Gary and Marty and I who live on the North Coast, when I buy my next watch, irrespective of this recent litigation and workaround, I'm going into Canada to buy my watch. The blood sensor will work as it always has there, if I get a watch there.
Well, no, I usually try stuff when Peter and people talk about it, and I'm not sure what Ultra watch I have, Marty. I don't know if I have the most recent one, but I just tried it while we were talking, and the way you instructed us, it works, and mine shows up 95% on my watch right now. So.
Yeah, I have an Ultra where I didn't sell back my Ultra because I was about to sell it back, and then somebody said, you're going to lose the blood oxygen. And so I didn't sell it back. It's an Ultra 2, and it still will register on the watch in that way. It's just the other ones that have been produced outside of that window that Peter mentioned. He got one that worked. I got an Ultra 2 that worked, but those produced outside of the window, now you can do it, but it goes through to your phone. In terms of a notification, 95 to 99 is considered, that range you want to be in terms of healthiness. You drop down to 90, you might want to look at that in terms of, or consult your physician on it. So I thought this was the end of it when when you posted this, Chris, and I said, well, this is good news. We can share with our users. But sure enough, Masimo filed another lawsuit today. And this time it was with the U.S. Customs, because the U.S. Customs was beginning to allow, or they had gone back on what the original filing was and what the original restriction was. So they've refiled a to the court. Massimo, in the description of the article, and this was in 9 to 5 Mac. In the description of the article, Massimo was a little upset. The way they found out that Apple had gotten around it was not because the court told them that. It was because the filing was then seen as appropriate for Apple to do what they did. And they found out about it when Apple announced it to everyone else. So it was sort of like they just didn't, they were upset that it happened, but they were also upset that they had to find out about it that way. So no action at this point has been determined in terms of what's going to happen, if it's going to be a stay of the agreement that Apple has now have to allow it to do on-phone recording. Again, I like to say in 2027 this becomes a moot point because the patent runs out for Massimo and anybody can have a handle at it if they want to have a handle at it. So we're back in the courts again. So enough about that. Peter, do you want to talk a little bit, because this was your idea for the show, and do you want to talk a little bit about what the show's about and maybe some, you put together some core resources and I'll put them up on the screen for those who are watching the video so you can also see the core resource that Peter's talking about.
Sure, I'll start with the thought behind it. A lot of news these days is about aging, how to live longer, and how to have a good life in your later years. And there is a very well-established checklist that'll probably sound like you've heard it 100 times before that is recommended for brain health and more: exercise, sleep, diet, social engagement, avoiding excesses, smoking and alcohol, avoiding stress, and not just mental stress, but also physical challenges like heat or air pollution, and the subject of today's podcast, which is challenging your mind. It is believed that games and puzzles, such as crosswords and Sudoku, are helpful and life-enhancing, and they're also quite popular. Magazines and newspapers rely on games and puzzles to attract and retain subscribers. So what we're going to do is look at what tech-savvy seasoned citizens do to challenge their minds, in other words, and hopefully extend their life and enhance the quality of their life. So we put together some web links, and I can tell you what a few of those are if Marty throws those up on the screen. Okay, so this is an article from Time Magazine that runs through the things you should do for brain health. It's pretty much those things I just mentioned. So if you want to read about those things in detail, you can look at this Time Magazine article. This is a particular article that goes into the science about crossword puzzles and things like Sudoku and whether they can stave off Alzheimer's, dementia, cognitive decline of all sorts. And it's showing that there is some evidence that it does. And here's just one more. I can't, I'm a scientist, so I love seeing lots of evidence. This is from Britain's The Guardian, and it is another particularly dementia risk study, because it's something that concerns a lot of us age-seasoned citizens. I found there are a couple books on this subject. One is by a guy named Eric Topol. It's called Super Agers. There's a link to Google Books, which will find you in different vendors, as well as find you a local library that has it, which is always my preferred way of finding things. It's one of two very excellent books on this subject. The other one is called The Longevity Plan. It's by a guy named John Day, who's a heart electrophysicist and heart cardiologist in Utah. And he has gone around the world in looking at people who age well and looking at the things that help them do that. And the next link is something my wife found, which I think is really great. It's called the Center for Brain Health. It's at the University of Texas. And if you go there, you can, they collect all the news, all the latest science, and you can get on mailing lists and things like that, and they will send it to you. And they also will let you take online tests to test your cognitive capacity. and to see whether the things you're doing is making it improve, or whether you are declining and maybe should get some help from somebody other than just some website. And the last thing is some exercises that they recommended that my wife uses. It's a little pricey, but a couple times a year they have a half off sale. My wife uses these all the time. They are things that improve your peripheral vision, improve your short-term memory, all kinds of things like that. You know, variations on Simon and games like that. It's a very nice suite of online challenges. I think that's most of what I put together. Yeah. Oh, Homo Ludens. There was a guy when I was in college, Joseph Huizinga, and he said that the essential thing of man, his philosophy is a person who plays. So I think if you play, you are alive. So that's. And then there were some more. I think we probably have had enough links, but there are other ones that follow this news. So I probably put in a few more links than's absolutely necessary. But I'm a researcher. That's my tenets of overkill.
And all of these links, for those of you who are listening or even watching the video, all of these links will be available in the show notes. So after we produce the show, as part of producing the show, I put the links in the show notes. So if you hear something that sounds appealing, the link will be there for you to find. And even if you have just kind of skipped over the show, you can go in and listen to or look at the links and maybe stir some other interest for you. Peter, you have some questions for us. So why don't we go ahead and start with you and the first question.
Okay, the first question is, do you think puzzles and word games genuinely help keep the mind sharp, or are they just good fun? Which types of games, crosswords, Sudoku, logic puzzles, word searches, feel the most like mental exercise to you? And I think it should be obvious at this point that yes, I do believe that that's true. And for me, I love, I guess, what would be called move-based logic puzzles. You know, so chess and checkers are move-based games. You can sit and think for a while before you make your move, and unless you're playing speed chess against a clock, you can take a long, long time. Some people play chess games by mail. The logic puzzles I like are from the company Nikolai, which is a Japanese puzzle maker, and they made Sudoku and a bunch of other puzzles. Marty's showing their website. There's a bunch of games there, and those are all, they explain the rules there. You're going to want to use the names on that website to search for ways to play it automatically online. Everybody has built implementations of Nikolai puzzles as apps and web games and everything else, but that's the central source, so that's the one I used. And the other place I picked was a place called Math Pickle. And this guy, of course, is a mathematics educator, but he has lots of pencil and paper games, and he's arranged them by grade level. And I am not embarrassed at all to take a kindergarten or grade 1 or grade 2 game that this guy Gord Hamilton put together and get a pencil and a piece of paper and play it. Although I don't play it on pencil and paper, I play it with my Apple Pencil and my iPad using either Freeform or Apple Notes to do my scribbling. But he has little videos that explain the games, and you can play them that way. I think both of those sets of puzzles are great. And let's see who's next. Chris.
Yeah, well, my big vice is Duolingo, and I've been using it for Spanish and French and Russian and a little bit of Dutch, didn't last long, math and chess. And I also have 2 Mahjong games from the Apple Arcade, which I play less often. I also, as an assistant, I had subscribed to SpanishDictionary.com, and which includes FrenchDictionary.com and OpenRussian.org, which I found helpful. Now, I didn't think initially that Duolingo was that much of a game until I heard the founder, Luis von Ahn, in an early TED Talk, saying that His objective was to take our vegetables and make them taste like dessert. And then I realized, oh, I've been hooked. And so I ended up setting up screen time on my Mac. So I actually run it on the iPhone. We'll talk about that more later. But I set up screen time with a limit of 2 hours a day just to make sure I could be getting other stuff done as well. I just find it a lot of fun. Let's see. I think Bob is
Okay,
next.
Bob's next.
Yes, I think that games can be a fun brain exercise. Um, I oftentimes will start the day with a couple games of solitaire. On the computer, I like games that are brief to play as opposed to the games where, oh, it's you have to build this city and it's going to take you, 3 months of 3 hours a day to get through it. I particularly like when I'm waiting in line to play a game or to partially occupy my mind when you are watching a video or a YouTube video or such, because oftentimes something like that does not take as much of your does not take as much of your attention, and your mind starts to wander. And so, if I have watching a YouTube video of something I do want to see, it's quite possible I am playing a mindless game of solitaire at the same time, not worried about whether I'm winning or losing. For myself, I feel that I have to have exercise both my intellectual stuff, doing things on a computer and solving problems that way, even if it's editing photos or something. But I also need something to do with my hands. And I have been a long time woodworker and so forth. So I make things uh, that help me exercise my mind as well. So over to Gary.
Gary, Gary. I'm a bit embarrassed, I think, because although Peter has turned me on, and I want him to speak a bit about it, share my time, Peter, to talk about the Julia Robinson Math Foundation puzzles, which I wasn't aware of, and I think it may pass to some of our listeners and viewers who have grandchildren. But I checked on some of the puzzles, and now from looking at the show notes and listening to Peter, I am going to try to spend some time working on a few puzzles. But Peter, will you say a few words about the Julia Robinson Math Foundation for me?
Well, they teach math through games online, and these games can be played independently of their monthly meetings. The nice thing about these games is they can be played cooperatively as well as competitively. So kids don't need to win against each other. They can sort of combine brains and win against the game, and adults can do that too. So cooperative play is a really nice thing. Every game has instructions at the beginning. About 2/3 of them can be played on a computer screen or a tablet screen, and about 1/3 of them are pencil and paper.
Yeah. I would encourage folks to give it a shot because it's very interesting and exciting, and especially Peter's one of the coaches, and they do a monthly meeting on Zoom. So that's my pitch for parents who have grandchildren to check it out, because once you see these kids where math has taken them, it's a whole new way of math compared to when I went to school. Marty?
Well, solving a puzzle together with your grandchildren would be, a nice bonding experience in the same way that I'm sure a lot of people have done jigsaws puzzles together with kids. And when each person can say, "Oh, this piece fits here. Oh, this piece fits here," it's a very joyous experience, I think.
Well, for my answer to the first question, I'm still working and still really involved in my workday. I do have some, and you'll find out about this. I do have some puzzles that I do to kind of get me started and to put me to sleep. But in my normal workday, I've got enough to keep my mind sharp. And work patterns are work patterns. Emergencies come up. You have to figure out solutions to problems. There are requests on my job from students and administrators and things like that I have to deal with. But there are other things that I do when I want to get away from those kinds of tasks, and it's more the tech hobby stuff that I do. One of the things that I realize I do now, and it's been pretty prevalent over the last couple of weeks because I'm redesigning all of the eCam shows that I'm doing. And if you're watching us on video, you'll see that this is a different design from previous shows that we've done. So we're rolling out this new design for the first time tonight. And when I do also do website designs, and I have to turn on a different part of my brain where it's very logical, it's very progress and process oriented with it. And it gets me away from thinking about things that might be more larger work issues that I have to deal with. So web design and then designing these video templates, I have to have a logical process that requires me to work in different ways. I use games and puzzles to clear my mind, and secondly, for entertainment or just a sense of completion of a task. If I can solve a small crossword puzzle, there's a little bit of that endorphin rush at the end that I was able to do it. So it's reinforcing to my sense of accomplishment. Peter, question 2.
Yeah, question 2 is, what puzzle or word games do you find yourself playing most often on your Apple devices, and why? And do you think the games you play lean more towards relaxation or towards exercising your brain? And I'll have to say, for me, it's not a contradiction. Exercising my brain, when I'm done, I feel very relaxed. I switch things up every couple months, but I'm a big fan of the very popular vocabulary-centric Wordle and Spelling Bee, and both of those are part of the New York Times subscription. And I've been playing those regularly. But there are 2 twitchy games, even though, I like short burst games just like Bob, and I like move-based games because I don't want it to be a speed thing. But there are 2 speedy, twitchy games, I call them, that I've been playing, one for over 20 years and one for over 40 years. Tetris, I realized I've been playing for over 40 years. And I play the OG version of it. So the one I linked is the original one. They've spiffed it up lots of different ways, 3D and stuff like that. But I think the original one that has what are they? Not pentominoes, 4-piece, 4 square pieces that drop is the best. And the other one I like quite a bit is called Bejeweled, and that's a grid of jewels. And I like the OG, the original or classic one. And there you're tapping whenever you find a triplet of jewels, and you're trying to predict, although I'm terrible at predicting, how as they fall you'll get, triplets, all kinds of different ways. And it's just a lot of fun. The sound effects are great. I guess one last confession, I've been watching Jeopardy whenever I can since I was in 6th grade. And in college, I scheduled classes so I'd never miss it. Right now, I can only catch it about 3 times a week, but I hear they're going to go to something like YouTube or some place where you can, without DVRing stuff, that you can watch recent episodes. So I should be back to 5 out of 5 very soon. So Chris is next.
Okay. Well, more on languages and Duolingo. I actually started French in the 1st grade, pretty basic stuff like colors and pronunciation. But I was kind of lackluster in other subjects, possibly because I didn't do any preschool or kindergarten and was trying to catch up on other stuff. But I really took to French, and fortunately, there was a good feedback loop, and that played out, continued, through high school, and I studied Latin and French and German, and then went on to learn Russian in the military, and so fast forward to about 4 years ago, I was having a lazy July 4th, and I decided to check out Duolingo Spanish, a language I hadn't started until the year 2002, if I recall correctly. And it was like really a childhood sweetheart coming back. I mean, Duolingo to me can be, sometimes it's mentally taxing as the languages get more complex. Sometimes it really irritates me, but then sometimes it's sort of comfort food for my brain, and I really have fun and enjoy it. And one of the things that I've recently added, well, I should say first that I subscribe to Duolingo Max, which is the expensive version, because you get to have real-time conversations with a character from the game or from the app. And, it's real time, and it also includes role plays where you're helping out with something or explaining answers, and you think, well, talking to a computer, really? But it really helps you overcome the fear of mistakes. Although, interestingly, the French character dialogue is a little bit more picky about language than the Spanish one. So I think they've got a little personality in there, too. And just coincidentally, the founder, Luis von Ahn, was at Carnegie Mellon, along with Sam Altman from OpenAI. So they've known each other for a long time. And so no surprise there's something there. But I also more recently have added ChatGPT, and I found, much to my total delight, that they do answer these really difficult questions in grammar. And so then I found out you could do not only French, but Spanish at the same time. And oh, by the way, they're Latin roots. So yeah, throw in the Latin too. So, you get a trilingual comparison, and it just, try to do that with a human being, right? So it's been a lot of fun. And, if I would say that if you're somebody who has a heritage language that's sort of fallen behind, or maybe you just really enjoyed a particular language in high school, give it a shot, because you might find it a lot of fun. And Duolingo, I think now is covering 43 languages. That number might not be correct, but it's somewhere up in that vicinity. And if you want to find out more about how it all started, Luis von Ahn has some TED Talks, and that are interesting to watch too.
I personally like games that I can play in a few minutes so I can finish a game and go on to something else. I don't like to leave it incomplete. On the Mac, I like Solitaire and Backgammon. Backgammon is a lot more, you have to look more forward in the game than Solitaire. On the phone, it's Dots and Solitaire. If you've never heard of Dots and you have a phone, you might try downloading it and see if you like it. It's not terribly unlike Tetris. Long-form games make me feel like I'm not making the most of my time. So I like these short games, get it over with, go on to something else.
All right.
Gary and Marty?
Marty,
I'll-
I'm going to take a pass on this one because I'm really almost like a member of the audience, and I'm learning so much from all of you. So I'll take a pass. So you
Well,
answer the question.
Yeah, for me, it's the New York Times Daily Mini, the crossword puzzle. That is a consistent for me. Here's the thing: you only get one a day, and that's a little frustrating for me. But you can buy mini packs, so I've purchased enough packs that are other versions of mini puzzles. that if I really need a mini fix, I'll just open up the pack and start to work through all of the puzzles in the pack, and that's been really good for me. Now, the minis are essentially 5x5 crossword puzzles, so I can do that at the beginning of the day when I get up. So I get through the news or I get frustrated with the news, but there's always this crossword puzzle that I can do, and to the point where it refreshes my mind, and I've also gotten a little goal oriented with it. It's like my goal is to finish it under 2 minutes. And I do that sometime, and then sometimes I get stuck on, thank you, Chris, French words. It does me no good to figure out French words or current rappers. I don't have that. That's not part of my culture. So I rarely try to press the help button, because the help button ruins a streak for me if I'm doing a streak. And the help button will allow you to see what words you have wrong. It has all different levels of help that you can do, or do you just want to fill in this one square? But I rarely do that. And sometimes I just stop the puzzle, put it down, come back sometime later in the day and finish it where my mind is in a different place. I also like physics games. And there was one that was rather popular. I think it was like Ragdoll Cannon. And the idea was that you had a cannon with a ragdoll in it, and you would have to shoot it over obstacles, but you had to figure out angle, you had to figure out trajectory, and you had to do, so it's almost like Angry Birds, but with that kind of ragdoll can. So I like those kind of physics games, and there are other ones that I've played that require me to think about space and the influence of gravitational pull on things, and there are other parts of it. Those are kind of fun to do. But Peter, you mentioned Jeopardy, and I'll tell you, I have sitting next to me a Nintendo Switch 2, which should be the envy of most teenage boys. And I have Jeopardy on it. And I don't play a lot of the other stuff, but I'm pretty good with the Jeopardy on it. And it gives me a Jeopardy fix anytime I want to have a Jeopardy fix. And a sense of completion, and generally I'm faster than the bots that I'm playing against, and it's a good experience for me on the Nintendo Switch. So go Jeopardy. Peter, question 3.
Okay, our wrap-up question. Do you notice any differences in experience between playing games on iPhone, iPad, or Mac? And do you prefer one over the other? And yes, for me, I'm sure this has been a theme over the many episodes we've recorded. In general, the bigger the better for me, screen-wise. My eyes are not the best in the world. I'm going to see the ophthalmologist again in about a week and a half. Hopefully that'll improve with a new set of glasses. But I just like big screens whenever I can get them. But, and a big but, the iPad has touch, and of course the iPhone does too, not quite as big. And the iPhone has pocketability. So for a game where touch is a big deal, almost any board game, when you moving pieces around, moving them with your finger is very satisfying. And there's one, I think it's kind of like Fruit Ninja, but of course I have a math variant called Prime Smash, and it involves these bubbles floating down. And if they're prime numbers, you tap them and you score. And if they're composite numbers, you slash them with your finger and break them up into numbers, which eventually will be prime numbers, and tap them. And it's fun. And you can play it, I guess, on an iPhone. I never have, too small. And one thing that works great on every screen is this app called Brilliant, which is also brilliant and hugely expensive. But I've never paid for it. I've never upgraded, and I've never run out of content to learn. It's got a great variety of math and stats, but it also has programming, logic, science and technology, and it's in bursts. So if I'm stuck somewhere in line at a movie or a concert, I can open my phone and do five, a set of 5 questions and answer them and feel very satisfied. So, Chris.
Yeah, the Duolingo experience has been consistently better and the best on the iPhone. And that's one of the reasons why my last two iPhones, the 14 and the 16, have been the Pro Max models. Previously, I had an iPhone XR. And what was I going to add here? Yeah, and Apple's focus too. In other words, a lot of their gaming focus. They talked for years about how they were going to get better for gaming, and you know that a lot of that focus, I think, has gone towards the iPhone. But one final thought, I want to say thank you to Bob for mentioning backgammon. I forgot all about it, but I think 10, 15 years ago, I had a backgammon game and I really enjoyed it because I used to play a lot with my dad. So, and of course, places he played sometimes were for money, but we won't go there. But yeah, I think that would be really cool. I'll look in the Apple Arcade and see if they've got a backgammon game. So, but yes, definitely a difference. iPad or iPhone is the best.
For me, which screen is best often depends upon whether I'm standing or sitting. If I'm sitting, the best screen would be the 27-inch screen in front of me now. But if I'm standing in a line, as Peter mentioned earlier, the iPhone is the best screen. It all depends on when I have time to play a game. Gary?
Well, I'd agree with you, Bob, and use smaller screen when I'm standing in line too. But primarily, I'm using a 27-inch monitor for almost everything I do during the day and even in the evening. Marty?
Shout out to backgammon, Bob. Thank you for reminding us about that. I was a badass backgammon player in college. And, it's one of those games that you play slow when you start playing it, but then your pace picks up with it and your skill level picks up with it. And it then becomes a lot of fun. And so I, too, like Chris, I'm going to have to look for a backgammon game on the iPhone that I can play. Because iPhone is where I do most of my gaming because it's always with me. And I don't do a lot of gaming, but obviously the things that I've talked about. Also, Turkey. If you want to see people play backgammon like crazy, my time in Turkey going to cafes, sitting in outside and having tea, watching old guys just gathered around a table playing backgammon like crazy. Whether they played for money or not, I don't know. But my phone is my primary device for gaming. When I'm in front of a computer, I'm generally working. I'm not gaming. I'm maybe doing design. So, as I mentioned before, that's an exercise for my mind. But for me, it's the iPhone. And while I'm waiting for something, like while I'm waiting to wake up or trying to wake up or falling asleep or waiting for appointments at the doctor's office, those kinds of things. So,
Marty?
Yeah, Chris.
Two suggestions if you were wanting to play iPhone games or use the iPhone at your desk. One is these magnetic stands. I won't hold up mine because it's kind of heavy. It's got a lead base, but the MagSafe on the back sticks to it, and you think, boy, that looks weird and awkward. But you can set the angle on it. Mine, I think, is the 12 South stand, but they've got stuff like this at the Apple Store. And you can angle it, and it really makes a difference because it's a screen in just the right place and, just the right swivel and everything else. And the second thing is I started using a stylus. And this is because my fingers are getting fatter and fatter when it comes to the small keyboard. And it really not only makes it easier, but a lot faster. And so that's just been my experience, particularly anyone with a little bit of hand tremor, that is an issue for you using the iPhone. Try a stylus, and perhaps the heavier models will work better for you, depending. But
Yeah, I
Just your
have
thoughts, sir.
I have the same kind of charging stand, but the other thing that you can do is now with iPhone mirroring. So I can literally put the iPhone on my Mac desktop and access apps or I guess games using that. So that's another option. Peter.
Good thing about iPhone mirroring is if you're in a Zoom meeting that drags a little bit, you can be playing a game right with that thing right in the middle of the screen, so it looks like you're paying perfect attention.
What
Yes.
meetings have you been in, a Zoom meeting that you've been in that isn't dragging a little bit? Chris,
There you go.
did you have something to add to that? Chris?
I was just going to say that that's a great idea about the iPhone mirroring. I'll have to try that. And yes, I've got a couple of those Zoom meetings. Of course, I lead one myself, so I won't include that one.
All right. Any final words from the group before I send us off? Okay. Well, thank you for the Old Mac Gang joining again together and enjoying the show. Really great topic, Peter, about sort of what we do to
Yeah.
exercise our mind and games that we can do to do that. I have the links will be in the show note, both in the video and on the phone. So if you want to get a hold of us, and we've been getting some email, it's really nice. We get email from folks who are glad to have found the show. That's always nice. And frankly, the email that I get, you're always worried you're going to get cranky people. But it's always been, there's not a flood of it, but it's nice to hear from folks. And particularly, it's been really nice email from folks. You can email us at the podtalknetwork@gmail.com. Perhaps you have some ideas that we can do for shows. You're an age seasoned user like us who wants to continue using our Macs and our Apple devices to make our lives more enjoyable. Our website is thepodtalk.net, and our next live episode will be on Wednesday, August 27th at 9 p.m. through YouTube, where you can watch this crew at youtube.com/@oldmacgang. You can always pick up the podcast or video later if you miss a show and share it with your friends and your Mac user groups that we've got a good podcast going on here. Our music bed is by Philip Gross, Marrakesh, courtesy of the Free Music Archive, part of the Creative Commons. More information about us again on our website, thepodtalk.net. Thanks to the group, Chris, Peter, Gary, and Bob, and thank you for being part of the Old Mac Gang. We'll see you next time.